Good morning. Please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices during our commencement ceremony. Thank you. Would the audience please rise for the academic procession, and please remain standing for the honor guard and the national anthem. The students are being led by the Deans of Student Development, Dean Ed Roberts, Dr. Karen Roseberry, Dr. Clemmy Solomon, and Dr. Monica Brown. Followed by the Campus Student Senate representatives, who will be assisting the deans on stage. Ms. Stephanie Kachu, Ms. Marie Diop, Ms. Evelyn Zabala, and Ms. Nancy Fankwa. The students from Workforce Development and Continuing Education. The students from the Germantown campus. The students from the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus. The students from the Rockville campus. Chief Marshal, Professor Joanne Carl. The Continuing Education faculty and staff, led by Professor James Wright. The Germantown faculty and staff, led by Professor John Colleton. The Tacoma Park Silver Spring faculty and staff, led by Professor Mary Kay Abbey. The Rockville faculty and staff, led by Professor Terry Meradane. Montgomery College administrators and central staff, led by Miss Donna Shenna. Our 2012 commencement platform guests. The bearer of the mace, Professor Oris Polacek, who is retiring after 43 years of service. Miss Kathy Jones, Senior Vice President for Administrative and Fiscal Services. Miss Dorothy Umans, Instructional Dean, Workforce Development and Continuing Education. Mr. James Perry, Workforce Development and Continuing Education, Apprenticeship Board of Trustees Scholar. Mr. George Payne, Vice President for Workforce Development and Continuing Education. Miss Joan Knack, Instructional Dean, Germantown Campus. Miss Linda Schrack, Germantown Campus Board of Trustees Scholar. Dr. Sanjay Rai, Vice President and Provost, Germantown Campus. Dr. Judy Ackerman, Vice President and Provost, Rockville Campus. Mr. Zachary Zimmerman, Rockville Campus Board of Trustees Scholar. Miss Carolyn Dean, Miss Carolyn Terry, Instructional Dean, Rockville Campus. Dr. Brad Stewart, Vice President and Provost, Tacoma Park, Silver Spring Campus. Miss Abainesh Teklahimanot, Tacoma Park, Silver Spring, Campus Board of Trustees Scholar. Dr. Tony Hawkins, Instructional Dean, Tacoma Park, Silver Spring Campus. Mr. Donald Kruger, Alumni Association President. Dr. Beverly Walker Grafea, Senior Vice President for Student Services. Mr. Jonathan Jays Green, Student Trustee. Mr. Michael Priddy, Trustee. Miss Suzanne Jenkins, Honorary Degree Recipient. Mr. Reginald Felton, Trustee. Dr. Stuart Edelstein, Honorary Degree Recipient. Dr. Leslie Levine, Trustee. Mr. Charles Atwell, Honorary Degree Recipient. Miss Marcia Sugg Smith, Trustee. Dr. Kenneth Hoffman, Trustee. Miss Gloria Aparicio Blackwell, Trustee. Dr. Donald Pearl, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. Mr. Stephen Kaufman, Chair, Board of Trustees. Dr. Hercules Pinckney, Montgomery College President Emeritus and our keynote speaker this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of Montgomery College, Dr. Darian P. Pollard.
Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the presentations of the colors by the Rockville City Honor Guard and the National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of Montgomery College, Dr. Darian P. Pollard.
Good morning, everyone. You may be seated for real this time. Good morning, class of 2012. Nicely done. And good morning, family and friends of our graduates, as well as our faculty, staff, and of course, our distinguished guests. Thank you all for being here. I am so pleased that Montgomery County Council Member and Education Committee Chair Valerie Irvin has joined us today. Additionally, I'd like to acknowledge the members of our Montgomery County Board of Education who are also here with us today, Mr. Christopher Bockley and Dr. Judith Daka. Thank you to the Montgomery County Foundation members, Ms. Camille Kendall and Mr. Michael Ewan, and Foundation member and former trustee, Ms. Bobby Shulman, as well as members of our Alumni Board of Governors, Ms. Carol Leahy, Ms. Esther Newman, and Ms. Anita Neal Powell. A special hello to Ms. Teresa Wright, a previous honorary degree recipient, who has her own fan club as well. As you look around, you'll see a splash of our new college colors. It is especially fitting that one of these colors is purple, the color of royalty. Today, you wear your own crown of sorts, a mortarboard, and you will become part of a very supreme group, a college graduate. It is a title to wear and celebrate proudly. Think about the last part, the opportunity to celebrate your recognition. With that title also comes great responsibility. Look around to the 5 people seated nearest you. Look around, graduates. In this country, the odds are that 1 in 6 of them live in poverty. 1 in 6. Now look at 3 people around you. In Montgomery County, the odds are that 1 out of 4 have only a high school degree, if that. So by being here today, by being a graduate of Montgomery College, you are indeed changing the odds. You are changing. You are changing the trajectory of your life, your family's life, and our community, and everyone around you. In fact, isn't that just what Montgomery College is all about? We all come together as a single institution to empower our students to change their lives and to enrich the life of our community. Think about that last part, enrich the life of our community. A number of our students this year have embraced a call to action and started the Changing the Odds movement. It's a goal to spawn compassion and empathy through the mutuality of our common experience. Our actions are inextricably tied to one another. By bettering yourself, you are indeed enriching our community. But it goes beyond that, graduates. With the power of a college degree, you have the ability, and dare I say, the responsibility to change the world. To change the world. To change the odds. There are more than 800 of you processing today. 2,000 other students were eligible for graduation. including 5 of our Changing the Odds movement students who I had the opportunity to teach this year: Antoine Battle, Fanta Kaba, Veronica or Nikki Mason, Tolashefe Machawane, and Siram Nagrupali. More than 1,700 students, including many of you, are transferring to four-year institution. You bring a wide variety of skills with specialty ranging from anthropology to engineering to air conditioning repair. And of course, I think there has to be a few English majors in the audience. Of the 2,800 students eligible to graduate, more than 400 of our graduates are younger than 21, while 13 are older than 60 years old. "745 of our graduates are graduating with honors. You are joining an even bigger network of alumni. You are inextricably linked to each other. Being part of this special group is not about a certificate on your wall or new letters behind your name, although I must admit those are nice. But being a part of this community college, our community college, is about more. The Changing the Odds students highlighted a quote by renowned anthropologist Margaret Mead, and she said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtfully committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." You may have noted, graduates, a small token on your seats. Did you pick that up? Yeah. That's my graduation gift to you. I hope that you will wear those bracelets proudly to remind you of the power you have to change the odds now when you say, "I am a college graduate." I have mine on right now. I hope you put yours too. Congratulations, class of 2012, because today you are a college graduate. Today you will become a part of a mighty group of committed citizens who can change the world. You can change the odds for you, your family, your community, and dare I say, this entire world. Go and do that, and do it proudly. Now I ask you, graduates, to turn your head to the video screens around the room and take one last look back at your experience this academic year and some of the lives that empowered you at Montgomery College.
Let's go, MC! Let's go! Let's go, MC! Let's go!
10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Montgomery College Rockville Knights have won the national championship by a score of 4-0.
It feels good. It feels like a lot of the things that we've been working on for the last couple of years have finally come together. It's a great program. It deserves a lot of recognition.
Go MC! Give me purple!
It's specific, uplifting, and has the added benefit of being 100% true.
We empower our students to change their lives, and we enrich the life
of our community. We are accountable
for our results.
Leslie Florence, where are you?
You have been awarded a Jack Kent Cooke undergraduate transfer scholarship of up to $30,000 a year for up to 3 years.
When I saw all the professors and the deans coming to my class to surprise me, I was very surprised because I was studying the Fourth and Fifth Amendment, and then I get this huge surprise telling me that I was a Jack Kent Cooke scholar. So that was very exciting. I started shaking. I couldn't believe it.
And you start mapping those things out in those quadrants. And then you start to say,
for me, with all of this knowledge now, not knowing who gave me
I feel it makes me really evaluate how grateful I am to be at Montgomery College.
Montgomery College seeks to create an inclusive educational environment where everyone is supported and welcomed.
Without regard to sexual orientation, gender expression, or any other difference.
Thank you.
I feel that Montgomery College has made a great impact in my life.
If it wasn't for Montgomery College, I wouldn't be in college right now. I'm really grateful for the opportunity I've had here.
MC has prepared me for the next level.
I can write better. I can communicate better. Montgomery College has really changed my life.
So being here and being able to be so successful at Montgomery College really has motivated me and shown me that I can do it.
It's my pleasure now to invite the chair of our Board of Trustees, Mr. Kaufman, to please come forward and present the Board of Trustees Scholar Awards. Mr. Kaufman.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Pollard. These Scholar Awards recognize the valedictorians for each of our campuses and workforce development and continuing education. Today's scholars will receive a board citation, a tuition scholarship. It is my honor to ask Trustee Pretty to please come forward to present the Workforce Development and Continuing Education Trustee Apprenticeship Scholar.
Would Mr. James Frederick Perry please come forward? Yeah, give him a hand. Mr. James Perry is completing a 4-year air conditioning Contractors of America apprenticeship program in association with the National Capital Chapter. He's graduating with a 3.81 GPA. Congratulations, Mr. Perry. See a picture here? You want to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Pretty, for that introduction. I would like to begin by thanking the Board of Trustees for honoring me with the scholarship. I would also like to thank the president, the faculty, and the staff of Montgomery College for providing such a great place to come to school and continue my education. Thank you to my employer, Shapiro & Duncan, for allowing me the flexibility to go to school multiple nights a week while still being able to work full-time. And I'd also like to thank my classmates. You made class more entertaining than any class I've ever taken in the past and made these last few years seem like such a short amount of time. Most importantly, I'd like to thank my wife, Amanda. There have been many early mornings and late evenings, but you've always helped me with what I needed to do and almost never complained. Without you, there would be no way I'd be up here now accepting the scholarship. I began as an apprentice at Shapiro & Duncan 4 years ago with no experience in the HVAC trade. I started learning the trade by studying at night as well as from senior technicians in the company. After a year with Shapiro & Duncan, I began the Air Conditioning Contractors of America program here at Montgomery College. Since beginning the program, I've gone from being a very green apprentice to now being part of an apprenticeship mentoring program at Shapiro & Duncan. I now have apprentices, all of whom are currently enrolled here at Montgomery College in the ACA apprenticeship program, working alongside me, so I continue to pass on the knowledge that I have gained these past 4 years. Along the way, my wife and I welcomed our first child, Olivia Marianne, the weekend before finals in April 2011. She's definitely helped to make school seem a lot easier in finals that year since she came to us. I look forward to returning to Montgomery College so I can resume my education and continue to grow with my company, improve my career, and provide for my family. And this scholarship will go a very long way in assisting me with that. Thank you again, congratulations, and good luck to you in your future careers.
Would Trustee Hoffman please come forward to present the Germantown Campus Trustee Scholarship Award?
Would Ms. Linda Schrack please come forward? Ms. Linda Schrack, a general studies major and a member of Phi Theta Kappa, is graduating with a 4.0 grade point average. She plans to attend the University of Maryland to pursue a bachelor's degree in communications and psychology. Ms. Schrack is also the proud mother of another 2012 graduate, her son Brett. Congratulations, Ms. Schrack.
Words. Words can be sharp as a saber or soft as a feather. Words can crush dreams or they can make them soar. Words can tell the story of a young girl who grew up in a middle-class family where drugs and alcohol flowed like milk and honey, and physical and emotional abuse poured down like rain. Where drugs and words told the girl that women weren't smart and certainly couldn't do math or science. The girl dreamed of going to college and becoming a doctor, so she worked hard and earned a full scholarship to Eckerd College in Florida. However, she never made it to Eckerd. Her father refused to sign the papers, and he knew when he drove her to college that she would be returning home. Her dreams were crushed. I know because that girl was me. When I returned home to Maryland, I left my parents' home with no job, no money, no car. I landed a job as a gopher for a printing company, became a graphic artist by watching others, and after 12 years, I started my own company, Artifacts. The company grew successful very quickly, and it hosted clients such as the World Bank, the late Ted Kennedy, and President Clinton. So it came as quite a surprise when I decided in 2005 to scale down my business and return to school. It's not been a quick or easy road. Through all this, my faith has helped give me the courage and strength to move forward. When Karen Roseberry called and told me that I was the Germantown Board of Trustees Scholar, I was shocked. Finally, that young girl had validation. I've learned through my journey that simple words like girls can't do math can have a huge impact, but positive words can have a greater impact. And I'd like to thank several of those who had such an effect on me. Dean Dorothy Humans has encouraged me through many delays with gentle words like, "Linda, just get it done." Okay, maybe they weren't so gentle. They were more like a kick in the pants, but I needed that at the time. I'd like to thank Dr. Charles Osborne. When I thanked him for getting me through statistics, he replied, "I'm not getting you through statistics. You are with your hard work." And Professor Elizabeth Peterson, who innocently asked me what degree I was pursuing and was surprised to learn it wasn't in the sciences. With your simple words, both you and Dr. Osborne taught me that women can do math and science. And yet, after another delay, I lamented to Professor John Fox that I would be 90 by the time I ever finished my associates. Professor Fox replied to me, "It's not about how long it takes, it's all about the journey." Professor Fox, those words kept me going when I often thought of quitting. Most importantly, I would like to thank my most ardent cheerleader, my son Brett. Many years ago, a small child stood beside me with cookie crumbs on his face. Before I knew it, a man stood next to me, coaching me through logic problems. "Brett, I'll never forget when I was struggling through studying. You laid your hand on my shoulder and said, 'Mom, relax, you've got this.' Today, I'm not only proud to call you my son, but also my fellow graduate." In closing, I'd like to leave you all with these simple words that comes from the heart of that young girl who really thought she had lost her dream. Although your dreams may delayed or altered, push on. Remember, it's not how long it takes, it's all about the journey. Thank you.
Would student trustee Jays Green please come forward to present the Rockville Campus Trustee Scholar.
Would Mr. Zachary Zimmerman please come forward? Mr. Zachary Zimmerman, a decorated combat veteran, is a business administration major. A member of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, he is graduating with a 4.0 grade point average. Congratulations.
Good morning. I would like to start by thanking the Board of Trustees for honoring me with this scholarship, the Macklin family for founding the Macklin Business Institute, Montgomery College's amazing professors, staff, and administration, my family for supporting me in good times and bad, specifically my newest family, Peggy and Jeff. You took me into your home and treated me like a son, and I can never thank you enough for that. Most importantly, to my smoking hot wife, Sarah, thank you for your unwavering love and support. I would not be here if it were not for you. There is no honor or award I could ever win that should not be considered at least half yours. Where would I be without Montgomery College? The easy answer to this question is Afghanistan, or at least training to go back to Afghanistan. 2 years ago, I needed to make a decision. I had worked so hard to become a non-commissioned officer in the Marine Corps, and I was eager to finally lead my own team of Marines. But like most Marines who achieve the rank of corporal, my promotion coincided with the end of my 4-year enlistment. Something else also happened during this time period. I met a girl named Sarah who was so smart and beautiful that she easily intimidated a usually unflappable infantry Marine. Little did I know that in just under 2 years, she would be my wife. I was initially apprehensive about leaving a job I'd become great at, and I'd put my life and limbs on the line to get to where I was. Sarah was just as apprehensive about the continuance of my Marine Corps career. And what has become a familiar trend, my wife got her way. I would say goodbye to the first thing I'd ever truly excelled at for something I'd never been more than mediocre, school. When I stepped into Professor McIntyre's U.S. history class in the winter of 2011, I was just as scared as I'd ever been on any patrol in Iraq or Afghanistan. This may sound ridiculous to people who hear me comparing a U.S. history class to IEDs, mortars, and firefights. But I was not afraid of death or bodily harm. I was afraid of a return to mediocrity. I was afraid of a feeling that had become all too familiar in high school, the feeling of being below average. But I knew that I had excelled at being a Marine, so I decided to attack the classrooms of Montgomery College with the same intensity and determination that I had on the previous battlefields I had fought on. Which brings me back to MC. After a year and a half, I have learned this is so much more than just a 2-year institution. It is a foundation for the American dream, a place that a student will have every ounce of their effort put into their studies matched by their professors. A place where a Marine can test into Math 091, the equivalent of elementary algebra, and 1 year later, that same student can have an A in applied theory calculus. As a Macklin business student, I have learned to embrace the use of mathematics and accounting to find answers to questions through quantitative methods. So here is a statistical analysis of where I'd be without Montgomery College. As a veteran under the age of 24, without a college degree, I would have a 30% chance of being unemployed, a 6% chance to live in poverty, and a 5% chance of being homeless. And most importantly, without Montgomery College, I would have a 0% chance of standing in front of you today. The famous Michigan football coach Bo Schembechler once said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." At Montgomery College, it is the student's job to bestow the preparation. And I can tell you firsthand, through nothing more than hard work and determination, that at Montgomery College, a prepared student will be met with endless opportunities. Thank you and congratulations.
Would Trustee Blackwell please come forward to introduce the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Trustee Scholar?
Buenos días. Miss Abanish Teclamona, I'm killing her name, I'm sorry. Please come forward. I'm practicing, but Ms. Abanish, a general studies major and a member of the Phi Theta Kappa, is graduating with a 4.0 GPA. Her future plans include obtaining a doctoral degree in nursing and teaching at Montgomery College.
Yeah, thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you to the Board of Trustees. Yeah, I remember the first time I came to Montgomery. I was committed to go to college, but with a lot of doubts, not knowing if I would be able to make it to go full-time college, raising 2 kids and working full-time. And here I am standing because of Montgomery College. Thank you. Today's celebration is not only about our hard work and achievement, but I think it is also a reminder how fortunate we are. Not everybody gets a chance to go to college, and very few actually get the quality of education you got here at Montgomery College. And this quality of education is even further enhanced by the diverse population. I am fortunate to graduate from a college that values diversity, and I think I am the proof standing here, just came from Ethiopia very few years ago and being successful. And I think about the friends that I made Montgomery College. They all come from different cultural, ethnic, economic, academic backgrounds. And because of this diversity, I have not only learned biology, anatomy, chemistry, and other subjects, but also how to communicate and debate successfully with all kinds of people. Having those skills will make me better prepared to work and interact in the diverse world that we live in. And thank you, Montgomery College. Today, I'd like to express my great appreciation and gratitude to all those who supported me throughout my journey. I am grateful to all my professors who exposed me to new ideas and perspectives, also who challenged me and prepared me for great moments. Thank you. Without you, I wouldn't be standing here. Especially thanks to Professor Jennifer Hill, if you are out there. Thank you, Professor Jennifer Hill. Your notes on my pre and post lab saying, "Oh, I really enjoy reading your lab reports," helped me erase my doubts. Thank you very much. Without your contribution, I wouldn't be standing here. I am also grateful to Montgomery College Early Learning Center. As a mom, I felt safe dropping my kids there, have the peace of mind and study. Thank you. Thank you to Thank you to Camps Grant that provided me with financial support for my kids. And thank you to Ms. Chakita for all your encouragements. Thanks to all my friends and families who has been a great support group. A special thanks to my husband, my 2 boys. Thank you very much. Last but not least, thank you, MC, for giving me endless opportunity like you have promised through great education. As Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So, my class of 2012, as we graduate today, I urge us to utilize this weapon and make a difference in our community, nation, and the world. As our president says, yes, we can do it, so let's change the world. Thank you and congratulations.
It is a tradition at colleges and universities to have and award honorary degrees to individuals who have risen to a position of prominence, have acquired a national or international reputation in a selected field, hold a distinguished record of public and community service, or have made a notable donation in time, talent, or gift to Montgomery College. Today, we honor 4 such individuals. I now ask Mr. Kaufman to please join me.
Thank you. I'm pleased to call forward this year's honorary degree recipients. Trustee Smith, please bring forward Mr. Charles Atwell. Mr. Atwell is a visionary local business leader, a dedicated community activist, and I'd like to say my friend. Trustee Levine, please bring forward Dr. Stuart Edelstein. Dr. Edelstein is a committed educator and visionary leader. Trustee Felton, please bring forward Ms. Susan Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins is a passionate advocate for the arts and a community leader. President Pollard, please bring forward Dr. Hercules Pinckney, Montgomery College President Emeritus, who we recognize today for his outstanding contributions to higher education. Dr. Pinckney is our keynote speaker.
Mr. Kaufman, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees and the State of Maryland, I confer these honorary Associate of Arts degrees in public service to Mr. Charles Atwell, Dr. Stuart Edelstein, Ms. Susan Jenkins, and Dr. Hercules Pinckney, who with diligence and honor have served Montgomery College and the community and the great state of Maryland.
Thank you, Dr. Pollard. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, the President, the faculty, the staff of Community College, Montgomery Community College, it is with gratitude and pleasure that I award these degrees with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations to each of the recipients. That's a lot of logistics up here. Please join me in welcoming our commencement speaker, Dr. Pinckney, who has shown his commitment time and time again, most recently coming out of retirement to selfishly lead the community college when we needed him the most. Dr. Pinckney.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. What an honor it is to be here, to be welcomed to one of the most important celebrations of your lives. Congratulations, class of 2012. And of course, your families also accomplished something monumental. So for their supporting you, for guiding you, and in some cases paying for your college, let's offer them congratulations too. I also want to salute the best faculty, staff, and administrators in the best community college in America. Thanks for all you do. And let me offer special appreciation to the Board of Trustees and President Pollard for their leadership throughout the year and for your kindness to me today. Thank you. I'm humbled to have had an honorary degree conferred upon me, along with 3 of the most respected and admired leaders from our arts, higher education, and business communities. Thank you for making Montgomery County a great place to live and work. And again, congratulations. Gary Trudeau has said, commencement speeches were invented largely in the belief that outgoing college students should never be released into the world until they have been properly led into a full state of drowsiness. Hopefully, I will stimulate rather than sedate. You be the judge. Dr. Pollard and the Board of Trustees asked me to reflect on my journey, a journey that began on a rural farm in South Carolina and culminated in my serving as Montgomery College's interim president, having an honorary degree conferred upon me, and addressing you, the distinguished class of 2012. I'd like to share some life lessons that I hope will serve you well, because you will face challenges after you leave Montgomery College. In fact, some of you have already faced them. It's not easy to balance your education with your work, family, or finances. But by God's grace, you did it. The truth is, the challenges and the naysayers will always be there. Some people will say, you can't have it all. None of us can prevent the roadblocks. but we can hold our heads high, keep our eyes clear, and choose the right path. My favorite proverb is, acknowledge him in all things, and he will direct your path. For strong people are known for the choices they make, particularly in hard times. Now, I'd like to share something that will make your English faculty happy. For if you studied any Shakespeare, you know this from Hamlet: to be or not to be. That is the question. His next words are telling. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. Here, Hamlet wonders, is it better to be stoic and passive in life's troubles, or heroically active? Whether you should sit back or meet your challenges head on. I think you know where I'm going with this. In the question of being passive or active, to the question to be or not to be, choose to be. Here are some B's I've learned over time. Be flexible. Be open to new and different possibilities, even if it takes you down a different road. I remember my own graduation. After college, I planned to become a test pilot in the Air Force or go into private industry. So I mailed out resumes, sat through many interviews, and awaited the job offers. As my college class concluded its final commencement rehearsal, the dean of the college said to the entire class, "Behind those curtains is something that will change your life." There were several hundred applications for a brand new National Teacher Corps federal program. I was intrigued. My mother had always wanted me to pursue a career in teaching. So I saw a great opportunity. Guess who applied? I and only one other of my classmates. Through this program, I attained my master's degree, paid for in full. That experience resulted in me becoming a public school teacher. Two short years later, I was a four-year college administrator. From there, I took advantage of other opportunities and went on to earn my doctorate, became a full-time faculty member at four-year institutions, and eventually progressed through the ranks of community college leadership. I happily retired from MC in 2009 as vice president and provost. 2 months later, the board asked me to return as interim president. I assure you that this also took flexibility, especially on my wife's part. But it was one of the most inspired decisions I've ever made. Being flexible resulted in this potential Air Force test pilot becoming the interim president of Montgomery College. It also doesn't hurt to listen to your mother. As it turns out, she was right all along. Be fully engaged in all you do. We all know in life that you can just squeak by, or you can choose to soar. The more engaged you are, the more you will get out of any experience. Just take our student scholars who were recognized today. Mr. Perry, Ms. Chirac, Mr. Zimmerman, and Ms. Talahamanat. You are an inspiration to us all for not just doing one thing well, but for embracing your entire educational experience. The more engaged you are, the more successful you are likely to be. You proved that today. No one just gives you a diploma. It has to be earned. Here's a sobering fact. More than 70% of our country's young people start some type of advanced training or education about 2 years after receiving their high school diploma. But as noted by Complete College America, many never finish and simply become college dropouts. Many students curtail schoolwork for just their jobs or for personal reasons. The challenge is to ensure that you finish. So your efforts that brought you here today are to be applauded. Through study, through engagement with your faculty and fellow students, through seeking opportunities, you are destined to reach even greater heights. Keep engaging, and you will keep growing. Be true to your faith and values. My life is here in Montgomery County, but my roots are in Orangeburg, South Carolina. That's where my parents instilled in me the values that continue to guide me today: respect and care for others, and a strong, abiding faith. Here's an example of how these principles served me well in a particular job situation at another institution many years ago. I went to work for an individual who was known for his colorful language, putting people down, yelling. I was warned, and yet it was a great job, and I saw an opportunity to do good things. So I always spoke to the boss in a calm voice, never used profanities, and sat silent if he did. And you know what? He quit. He actually stopped. Well, at least in my presence. He also modified my work schedule to accommodate my faith practices without my asking. The lesson? Show your best self without backing down, and perhaps others will find their best selves. Be passionate about your vision. You've heard the saying, couldn't see the forest through the trees. Whether it has to do with your family, your career, or your other interests, do not forget your vision, your very reason for being. Do not let the small things hold you back from achieving the big goal. As provost, I held a grand vision for the Germantown campus, one that brings together education, business, and research in a vibrant setting. And as interim president, my vision and that of the Board of Trustees included preparing this institution for an absolutely stellar president who would come and wow us all. I think we did pretty good. And finally, my last B. Be proud of where you came from. Be proud of your family, for they are a large part of why you're here. Be proud of your community and give back when you can. For service is as important in defining who you are as your career is. And there's one more thing I want you to be very proud of. By choosing small classes and an outstanding faculty dedicated to teaching, by choosing an affordable tuition, and by choosing a college with a student body that looks like the world, you have showed that you are wise already. You showed that you know how to take decisive action. So let me end on this note. Be very, very proud that you are a Montgomery College graduate. Every one of you today is a success, and for that, we are all proud. Congratulations, class of 2012.
Thank you, Dr. Pinckney, for your remarks. To be or not to be, that is indeed the question. And your message to our graduates, to be, is certainly a noteworthy endeavor for them. We owe you a tremendous amount of gratitude for your exceptional leadership while at Montgomery College. Changing lives is indeed a Herculean task at which you have excelled throughout the years. So it is only appropriate that your name forever be etched into our college landscape. Our new Life Sciences Park on the Germantown campus, a place for job creation and experiential learning for scientists so vital to the future of Montgomery County. I am proud to announce today that it will be named the Hercules Pinckney Park. I cannot think of a more fitting name.
Good morning. I am Don Pearl, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dr. Pollard, President of the college, will confer the degrees and certificates, and Mr. Kaufman, Chair of the Board of the Trustees, will award these recognitions on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Montgomery College. Dr. Pollard, I am pleased to present the graduates of the class of 2012. Please join me in a round of applause. One more. Graduates, please rise.
All right, graduates. Mr. Kaufman, on behalf of the college and an authority vested by me by the Board of Trustees in the state of Maryland, I confer the degree of Associate of Arts Associate of Science, Associate of Applied Science, Associate of Arts in Teaching, Associate of Fine Arts, certificate or letter of recognition as appropriate on the persons of the class of 2012 who have, with diligence and honor, fulfilled the requirements for the degree or certificates being awarded with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereunto.
Thank you, Dr. Pollard. This is the best part of the job. By the authority vested in the college by the state of Maryland, I hereby award the associate's degree, certificate, or letter of recognition as appropriate with all the rights, privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations, and please be seated.
Will the members of the Workforce Development and Continuing Education class of 2012 please come forward?
James Frederick Perry with honors. Joel Amaya. Luis Barrero Martinez. Jeremy N. Hairston. Alex Mendoza. James G. Mitchell, Jr. with honors. Jesus Reyes. Nelson D. Rodriguez with honors. Carlitos Doniel Rollins. Sean Omar Roy. Edgar E. Valladares.
Germantown class of 2012, please come forward and receive your diplomas.
Linda Schrack. Stefan Abelard. Henrietta Togosi Adeg Bemley. Jessica Aguilar. Roxy Aguilon. Arslan Amjad with honors. Catherine Anderson. Thank you. Kevin Andrade. Tanya Austin. Roya Bad Akshan. Emmanuel Barnes. Heather Baumgardner with honors. Kenneth Cole Bigger. Carl Matthias Bonners with honors. Yes. Stephen Breen with honors. Carol Marie Bryant. Ryan Burke. Stephanie Karen Candeland with honors. Maria Castro Trujillo. Tanash El Shaduka. Chad Lawrence Collins. Kevin Connors. Gail Kirby with honors. Melissa Marie Curtis with honors. Catherine Del Gadillo. Tyrone Christopher Dixon. Gervais Kamsu. Michael Doe. Kwame Doe. Stefan Du Kanwano with honors. Momo Iga with honors. Samudra Ika Na Yake with honors. Saeed Samuel Elahi with honors. Juan Esparza. Yassine Fo. Patrick Joseph Gayton with honors. Clifton Lewis Galloway with honors. Nicole Gomez with honors. Kenny Gordon with honors. Simba Gratz with honors. Ali Hafiz with honors. Gretchen Halsey. Juliet Hope with honors. Alexis Virginia Horsey. Latoya Candice Isaac with honors. Ali Isaiah Herrera. La Prince Jackson. Jamila John Philippe. David Tyrone Johnson, Jr. Rikia Johnson. Brandon M. Jones. Marcel Nathaniel Jones II. Quincy D. Jones. Andrea Hoya with honors. Tula Kumari Kanipakala. Jennifer Nadine Carr. Pashan Ka Kurel. Nadia Khalid. Felicia Crystal King. Sanjay Lama with honors. Abosede Lawal with honors. Beverly Annabelle Maraquin. Cindy Melendez Guardado. Rosita Mendoza Lopez. Julian Messick with honors. Monique Myrie. Ronald W. McFarland. Lester Waljano Navisky. Ami Sise Dong. Stacy Nira. Douglas Samuel Orr. Juluka Ortwith. Francis Adebisi Owolabi. Anthony Joseph Patain with honors. Jesus Pelot. Diego Pineda. Diana Garcia. Lauren Ashley Purdy with honors. Sumia Rahim with honors. Afifa Rana with honors. Onaje Robinson. Michael Rodriguez. H. Janet Rose. Luis Ravello. Sofia Yolanda Sanchez. Arthur William Scales. Brett Schrack. Shannon Ardell Schwab. Daniela Shook. Connie Ashley Silva Arche. Daniel Smith. Scarlett Solis. Valerie Lena St. Angelo with honors. Keenan Tompkins. Shavanti Thompson. Erica Titwana with honors. Alfredo Valdivieso. Anna Vasquez. Cesar Ventura. Kayana Michelle Walker. Lincoln Sheldon Wells. Kimberly T. White. Zeus Alexander Williams. Montana Lee Worth. Yasir Mohammed Zand Shima. Ashley Harris. Natalie Berry with honors. Anna Claudia DeMello. Alicia Historia Kelly. Hui Nong.
Will the nearly 300 graduates from the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus please come forward and receive your degrees?
Board of Trustees Scholar Abinish Belay Tekla Hemanat with honors. Marie Diop with honors. Miguel Adasso, honors. Jude Namfor Alitum with honors. Myra Alvarado. Maritza Amayo, honors. Lorian Marthel Anderson with honors. Alan Anatosi with honors. Carla Dinor Arana Niero. Fevin Arga. Hinuk T. Arga. Maria Arias with honors. Robel Asmerum with honors. Carly Eliana Augustin. Khalid Basari with honors. Dr. Shirley N. Washington with honors. Nicole Crosby Black. Erickson Badillo with honors. Corinne Biekle. Daphne Bengura. Adonis Batuami with honors. Antoine Lamar Battle with honors. Jose Mauricio Fuentes. Siani Bendane with honors. Evan Bentz. Johannes Baraki. Jean-Marie Bergrandi Davi. Josephine Debrois Bicoy. Rebecca Elizabeth Bond with honors. Glenda Yasmin Bonilla with honors. Tatiana Bonilla. Lourdes Barrero. Grace Boughton. Anne Brutus Misador. Juan Bui with honors. Mary Megan Burrow. Nellie Lelaviti Campbell. Stephanie Carrillo. Imelda Costello with honors. Erica I. Castro. Carmen Centeno with honors. Bezanash Alemu. Sasyat Abraha with honors. Tase Abera. Bethlehem Tesafai Abebe. John A. Sursa. O'Neill Zespidides with honors. Amber Nicole Cheney. Huiling Cheng with honors. Jessica Marie Charters with honors. Ahmed Ali Childs. Danilo Ching Jr. Hyung Suk Chung, honors. Claire Singque with honors. Sarah Klein. Alessandra Cortez. Annie Coveller Hill with honors.
Thank you so much.
Marveline Siente Dandin. Barbara Nadu Davies Pugh with honors. Ashanafi Casa de Bella with honors. Dejani Desi. Alameche Kabidi Desta. Kadiatu Diallo. Joshua Diaz with honors. Monica Diggs Jenkins with honors. Scott Lano Davina Garcia. Ahmed Joman Demreco. Deira Dunbar. Mary Christine Asambi. Bikal Ashete.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Natasha Gael Itak with honors. Joseph Iyong with honors. Maria Vanessa Fabelar. Eliane Cedrine Fankem. Danielle N. Fletcher. Hughes Thotsing. Marcia Fox. Deshaun Freeman. Anwar Fulcher. Dul Gachimig. Hinuk Gabrekdian with honors. Ade Gesset. Alameyu Gatahun with honors. Sunil Giramahi with honors. Erlicia Takia Davis. Siraj Hussein Siwo with honors. Catherine Stephanie Gill. Alice N. Gimos with honors. Claudia Catalina Gomez. Kaya Ann Green. Talaye A. Habatamariam. Gazai Hagos with honors. Lydia Haley. Julie Hahn with honors. Joshua Hantman with honors. Lawanda Alicia Hermostein. Dwayne Hilaire. Morgan Michelle Haran. Jose Carlos Hansu.
Thank you.
Obiagili Agepe. Ellen Juliet Israel. John Ivy. Desiree Maria Jamerson. Raquel Jerome. Ji Hun Jin with honors. Christine Joaquim John. Princess Sylvia John. Cassandra R. Johnson. Monique Antoinette Johnson. Katshiama Sabayi Karabimba. Michelle Vanessa Camden. Mekadis Kabidi. Nicole Marie Kelly. Hiwat Kisi with honors. Asret Kumsa. Mohammed Khan with honors. Rahel Kafele with honors. Christine King with honors. Kevin Koch with honors. Miriam Cohn. Yulila Kenesuavova with honors. Christy Chantel Lassiter. Pauline Latour. Kimlone Thi Lee with honors. Sirgut Lagisi. Andrew Lewis. Nyoka Lewis with honors. Alginus Liriano. Natalie Lundberg. Sangfil Chakungman Lee with honors. Nicole Mafeu. Lexmi Marajan. Rupa Mahat with honors. Shova Mahat. Edie Mahitha. Luisa Maldonado. Lissy Jacqueline Malua Machenga. Nancy McKenzie with honors. Varina T. McKenzie. Jessica McNair. Sarafal Marshall Medina Mamia. Adugna McKeenan with honors. Cindy Christina Mendez with honors. Salam Majetsu. Luis H. Merritt Jr. Martine Mervali Nerajumbe. Salam Minsun. Michael Maranachenko. Leticia Messimi. Annika Mogg with honors. Andre Mons. Christopher Monsell. Rachel Elizabeth Moore. Malini Metsibo with honors. Tahosa Fellow A. Maswane. Sibyl Wangai S. Melukwata with honors. Marvan Enfa with honors. Lillian Ayo Nasili Okenye. Claude Nazaminikolo. Margaret Nasoa. Amy Guy with honors. Irene A. Ngwa. Lionel W. Netrekka. Shadi Golbaz Navarsania with honors. Nina Josie Diane Netyeg. Miriam Ochoa. Sophie Beulah Odell. Thelma Amilomo Alaguar. Grace Anigbu. Osinachi Okenye. Nancy C. Opiala with honors. Marie Asafo with honors. Cadre Oredrago. Guy Russell Ozigre. Shimoli Perek with honors. Federico Anthony Pedrara. Ariana Pertralta with honors. Tulio Periara. Siobhan Petrev with honors. Marie-Flore Pierre-Louis. Monique C. Pullum. Deanna Lynn Purdy with honors. Marina Ramirez. June C. Ralph Nixon. Talondra Rhine. Devereaux Roach. Bayani Robai. Jose Francisco Rodriguez with honors. Wendy Ortiz Rodriguez with honors. Patricia Ann Ross with honors. Arura Harubian Roki. Mohammed A. Saeed. Abdul Sako. Ishmael Sako. Myra Schneider with honors. Sonia Melissa Schwab with honors. Bessie Afi Semenya. Tegisit Semu. Frank Reese Sayanya. Rokaya Sine. Priska Siri. Anthony D. Sessoms. Tigzabu Sayum with honors. Christina Shrestha. Daniel Sims. Claudine Lewis Spivey with honors. Kima Melissa Sinclair. Anne Rebecca Stewart. Monetta Strickland. Saraya Saraya. Charlotte Tawney. Fernando Tapia Jr. Habtam Safei Teklamariam. Amin Tazera. Matthew Thomas Thies with honors. Haji Fadima Ana Thiam with honors. Michelle Callie Paso Tonfak. Naomi Kazagaye. Maria A. Euclid. Maria Veronica Vaca. Noel Vassen. Maria Vargas. Julia Cesar Velarde. Noeme Villan. Kim Viong. Betty Ward. Ruth Widener. Sextus Wilkinson. Dana Williams. Samnet Than Wilson. Elda Woldemichael. Takali Wendamu with honors. Lizeth Wong. Megan Marie Wood. Yasin Yamam. Golnaz Zajaji Zarabinia with honors. Ruta Zarai. Menberi Balaye. Lilian Flor Mefongenge. Chloe Rose Bush. Marcus Day. Dashina Eleste Marshall. Anna Turkson. Edgar Trigo. Darcy Sessions with honors.
Will the more than 450 members of the Rockville class of 2012 come forward? Come on up.
Student trustee Jonathan J. Screen with honors. Trustee Scholar Zachary Zimmerman with honors. Ankil Ward. Cecilia Volterra with honors. Kirill Vilsaklovov with honors. Soon Wei Wei with honors. Brian J. Waite. Beth Ward with honors. Don Arenga Watasinge. Corrine White with honors. Betty Ann Williams. Melissa Ann Wilson with honors. Sarah Louise Butler with honors. Bridget Winstead. Inga Yamurzina. Vivienne Yimga. Zared Zanders. Anais Zarate with honors. Kafura Wanjeri with honors. Gina Elva Vague. Nicholas Weiss. Sherwin Wells. Caridad Yetbarek. Earl Verona. Angel Velarde.
Thank you.
Maria Velasco with honors.
Thank you so much.
Bobby Brown.
Hi.
Fineza Magombe.
I am so happy for you. Congratulations.
Lugia Sue with honors.
Smart girl to shoot.
Anat Sukenik. James David Swartz with honors. Mariame Silla with honors. Armand Kana Tano with honors. Stephen Edward Taylor Jr. Sarav Udas. Jennifer Zeladon. Belek Toktosunov with honors. Farida Udin. Diana Rivera. Clara Tello. Priscilla Ramos with honors. Chastity Doris Thompson. Emmanuel Tito with honors.
Well done. Congratulations.
Colleen Dyer Townsend.
Well done, young man. All right,
Raluca
congratulations.
Luminitsu Trefin. Kelly C. Jackson.
Thank you very much.
Ashley Adams.
Congratulations, sweetheart. Oh, good job.
Juliana Agreda Tenorio. Carol Andrea Aguilar. Nusrat Ahmed with honors. Brian Alfaro with honors. Simone Marie Alfred. Emilia Alani with honors. Candice Marie Allgood. Emna Alzate with honors. Catherine Alota Turdil. Karina Andriana Sandadi. Aaron Andreas. Hernan Agulo.
Right, march it out. Congratulations.
Janila Na Afudawa Ano with honors. Tyler Joseph Anton. Andres Aparicio. Kokovi Esenam Apteo.
Well done. Congratulations, young man.
Giselle Arango.
Very happy for you. Congratulations.
Sylvia Argueta with honors. Maria Gladys Arias. Carla Patricia Armijo.
Congratulations, Joe. So happy for you.
Kayla Armstrong.
Good job.
Cesar Atahuya.
Congratulations. Well done.
Wiam Attar with honors. Ava Aoyang. Mohammed Bashir.
Well done. Congratulations.
Diana Centeno.
All right now, young man. Good job.
Aminta Juke Badian. William Bartlett.
Congratulations. Well done.
Christian Batike.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
young man.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right,
Shirley Bazil. Luis Behar.
Congratulations. So happy for you. You're welcome.
Madai Berrios.
Congratulations. Well done.
Stephanie Bertrand with honors.
Congratulations. Well done. Smile. There you go. Give me some smiles. I love it.
Desiree Bezeden Hote.
All right, Desiree.
All right, Desiree.
Nakul Harish Bahat.
Congratulations.
Jose Herbieto Blanco.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
well
much.
Done, young man. Happy for you.
Rachel Bonaparte with honors.
Yay. Congratulations. Well
Christina Boxonskana.
Congratulations.
Julia Branco with honors.
Congratulations. Well done. You're welcome.
Adrian Broadus.
Yay. Congratulations. So happy for you.
Jonathan Broom.
So happy for you. You, girl. You did it.
Christopher A. Brown.
Hey now. It's your grad day.
Yasmin Brown.
Congratulations. Well done.
Min Huang Bui.
Take your time, enjoy it. Sashay,
Dwayne Scott Bumbry Jr.
Do what I can. I'm do what I can. Thank you.
Adrian E. Cabrera.
Congratulations, young man.
Claudia Lizeth Calderon.
Boy, right here. I'm loving it. Congratulations.
Alejandro Calixto.
Well done. Congratulations.
Brittany Ashley Calomares.
Congratulations, young man.
Max Cameron.
So happy for you.
Samantha Cameron with honors.
Congratulations. I'm so happy.
Kevin Omar Canales Cruz.
Congratulations, sweetheart. Happy for you.
Marlene B. Canchasto. Rahisa Carreras with honors.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Kim Castro Casimban.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Jonathan Cuso.
Happy for you. Yay.
Alan Castro with honors.
Smile, smile.
Arturo Cazares.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Joel Johnson Cerda.
Thank you, baby. Yeah, all right, congratulations.
Anna Elizabeth Cerrone.
Congratulations. Well done. Happy for you.
Pavel D. Cespedes.
Happy for you. Congratulations.
Tiffany Ann Cespedes with honors.
You show 'em, girl. Congratulations.
Austin Chandler. Chong Wat W. Chan with honors.
Well done, young man. Yes.
Pete
Well done.
Chikalos.
Congratulations.
Yang Hen Chen with honors.
Chief, please. Congratulations. You're welcome.
Yang Kui Chen with honors.
I need your shoes.
Vanessa Chicas.
My feet. Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Matthias Choma.
Happy for you. I'm loving the
Ariella
photo.
Chu
Loving it.
Crum.
Congratulations, young man. Welcome.
Michael A. Collardo.
Woohoo, smile. There you go.
James
Congratulations.
Connor.
Give me some smiles. Well done.
Wes Connell.
Well done, young man. You give me a smile.
Farai
There you go.
Chimonyo.
Congratulations.
Thank
Well
you.
done. I'm so happy for you.
Judith Cortez.
Oh, congratulations. Well done. Happy for you.
Eric Cottenham.
Well done.
Kelsey Kramer with honors.
Congratulations, young man.
Caitlin Crawford.
Congratulations. Well done.
Leanne Crawford.
Oh, see? Good job. Well done.
Brenda Cueva.
Congratulations. Well done.
Megan Danielle Current.
Congratulations. Well done. So happy for you.
Maria Victoria Kurzel with honors.
Yeah, girl. Congratulations.
Danielle Danes with honors.
Smile. There you go. Congratulations.
Leah
Well done.
Dahia with honors. Dwayne Davidson.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
Lorena Davila.
Good job. Hey, now, young man.
Mariana Davila with honors.
Well done,
Joan
sweetheart.
Andrews.
Congratulations. Yay. Congratulations. I'm happy for you.
Rosa Miladi
So
with
happy for you.
honors.
Congratulations.
Tete Tino Ete Benison with honors.
All right, now, young man. Congratulations.
Carolina Rebecca Estrada. Carla Espinoza.
Congratulations. Well done.
Jenny Espinoza.
Congratulations. Well done.
Shadell Canty.
Well done. Congratulations. So happy for you.
Jeremy Davis.
Yay. So happy
Matthew
for you, sweetheart.
Davis.
Congratulations.
Leila Dawa.
Smile, dude. Congratulations. Well done.
Ahoefe Simone Defanti with honors.
Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. So happy for you.
Ader De Leon. Janie Marie DeBoard.
Smile. Congratulations. Well done.
Emily DeFix with honors.
Down low. Down low. Down low. Well
Michelle
done.
Del Gallio.
Congratulations, sweetheart.
Vanessa Delgado.
Congratulations. Well done, sweetheart.
Brian Matthew DeLong.
Well done. Congratulations.
Paul Howard DeLong.
For you, young man. All right now.
Oswaldo Diaz.
Well done. Congratulations.
Francesco Di Giovanni with honors.
Congratulations. Good job. Good job.
Jessica
Congratulations. So happy
Dillon.
for you.
Thanks.
Victoria Din with honors.
Congratulations. Well done.
Tanya Dixon.
Well done. Congratulations, sweetheart.
Kasi Jaboku.
Congratulations. Well done.
Tui Tan Do.
Well done. Congratulations, young man. Mwah. Thank you. Yay. Congratulations. Well
Kaylin
done.
Douglas. Alexander Drozdovich with honors. Mary R. Duckett.
Congratulations. Best of luck to you.
Faye Naomi Dunstan.
Good job. Congratulations. So happy for you.
Lionel Durand.
Congratulations. So happy for you.
John Jack
All right, now,
Edwards.
young man.
Thank you.
Juliana Obianuju Ejjidobi with honors.
Oh, sweetheart. So happy for you.
Xiomara Escobar. Elizabeth Espinosa.
Congratulations. Well done. So happy for you.
Emily Espinoza.
Thank you.
Fabio Fajardo.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Saman Fashori with honors.
Congratulations.
Edlin Ivania Figueroa with honors. Bruna Figueredo with honors. Wosenu Fishea with honors.
Well done. Congratulations.
Kyle A. Fitzgibbons. Dennis Joel Flores.
Congratulations. Well done. Thank you.
Kevin C. Filinick. Leslie Flores with honors. Thomas Flynn.
Congratulations, sweetheart.
Benjamin Fulton.
Congratulations. Well done.
David Fountain Ritter.
Thank you.
Olivia M. Frame.
Well done. Congratulations, y'all.
Lizette Karina Boniface Francisco.
It's your grandkid. Congratulations.
Michael Froschel with honors.
Thank you. Nice man with honors. I love it. Congratulations.
Pascal Angela Francois.
It's your
Garusha Furlan. Shauna Gaines.
Well done. Congratulations.
Cindy Gamboa. Holman Gary. Roxana Judith Garcia.
I like that stroll. I love it.
Helen Deneb Garcia Alton with honors.
Congratulations.
Giovanni Garmendez.
You got
Beverly Jean Gascon.
Well done. Congratulations, young man.
Stephanie Marie Gazzolo.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
Jennifer Margaret Geiger.
Well done. Congratulations.
Helena Giroff with honors.
Congratulations, sweetheart.
Tegliesas Busena with honors.
There you go.
Michelle Glencora Juanita Gibbons with honors.
Congratulations. So happy for you.
Marta Cristina Hiron Andrade with honors. Lily Ninenvi. Eves Gomes with honors. Aranga Eshan Gonodewege. Alan Gonzalez. Michael Gordon. Tito Granados. Ronica Joanne Gravette.
Well done. So happy.
Dale Roland Green Jr.
Congratulations.
Alessa Grieg.
Look at you. You stole him out. Well done.
Kendra Ann Grimmett.
How you doing? Congratulations.
Misha Gill.
Woohoo. Well done.
Eric Gutierrez with honors.
Congratulations. So proud of you.
Laura Guzman Aguilar.
So proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Hoda Hafezi with honors.
Congratulations, sweetheart. That's right.
Human Hafezi.
Well done. So proud of you.
Katra Haidarazada.
Yeah, man. Congratulations.
Anna Hairumayan with honors.
Congratulations. Well done. Congratulations, sweetie.
Gabrielle Ledoux Happy. Rita
It's your
Harris.
birthday. Congratulations.
Benjamin Hyams Jr.
Congratulations.
Randolph Vernon Head.
Keep going.
Robert Michael Heater with honors.
Give this out. Take care.
Allison Hope Heidel with honors.
Congratulations with honors. I love it.
Elizabeth Hellman with
So
honors.
happy for you.
Viviane Hembrook with honors.
Congratulations.
Darlene Hernandez.
So happy for you, sweetheart.
Latisha Hinton Kama.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
Larry Hicksenbaugh.
Congratulations. Well done, sweetheart.
Sandy Huneka with honors.
Congratulations. Well done.
Sarah Hong with honors.
We're so happy for you. Congratulations.
Marcus Panet Hongmanivan.
Congratulations. Well done. So happy for you.
Kizzy Hoy.
Congratulations.
Jonathan Su with honors.
Well done. Congratulations.
Dongpei Huang with honors.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Megan Mary Hudspeth.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Jorge L. Hunzelman.
Congratulations, sweetheart.
Tiffany Nika Ebiwochi.
Let's go and change the world.
Oh, that's right.
Laura Angelina Idoni.
Congratulations. Thank you. Well done,
Arshia
sweetheart. Congratulations.
Iftikhar with honors. Josue Isias with honors. Victoria Ivanova with honors.
You're welcome.
Rashonda Jack. Bubakar Jallo with honors.
Good job, young man.
Say Un Maria Jang. Sarah Michelle Jankowski with honors.
Well done. Congratulations.
Orlando Jarquin.
Good job. Congratulations, sweetheart.
Maria Lorena Jaron with honors. Gari Jayasinga with honors.
Congratulations. Well done.
Jeffrey John.
Oh, glad to hear that. Well done. Congratulations.
Turquoia Peblis Johnson. Lillian Sinclair Jones with honors. Candace Jones.
Congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Angelica Joya with honors.
You did it. Congratulations.
Augustina Solon Kaganich with honors.
Well done.
Petra Kalkofen. Callie Barbara Cambanese with honors. Teodora Kaminofa with honors. Samantha Karras.
Congratulations. Happy for you.
Safa Karzai.
Well done.
Reina Kayed. Salika Khan.
Congratulations. You did it. You did it.
Mohammed Saduddin Khan.
Sweetheart, congratulations. Well done.
Esther Kiala.
So happy for you. Congratulations. You
Barbara
made it.
Ann
That's right.
Kilgore.
You did. Congratulations, sweetheart. Good luck.
Cynthia King with honors.
So happy for you.
Victoria
Congratulations.
King with honors.
Oh, so happy for you. Congratulations.
Stephen Kingbo Mistol.
Congratulations. All right, now, give me a smile. There we go.
Natalia
Congratulations.
Klichocheva.
Well done.
Carmen Kofi with honors.
Yay.
Svetoslav Kostrodinov. Eric Kruzikas.
Congratulations, young man. Very happy for you.
Kristen Kazemka.
Congratulations. Well done.
Riyad Labidi with honors.
Well done, sweetheart.
Julia Lair with honors. Julie E. Latos with honors. Veronica Leach.
Well done. Congratulations. Happy for you.
David Levitt with honors. Angela Lee with honors.
Oh, give me some teeth. All right now, congratulations.
Charnay Lee.
Well done. Congratulations.
Song Kwan Lee with honors.
Yay. Congratulations. So happy for you.
Ariane Arenas Lintag with honors.
Thank you.
Jose D. Lizama with honors.
Aria. Sounds like mine almost. Congratulations.
Daniel R. Lloyd with honors.
Well done. Congratulations. So happy for you.
Adam
All right now,
Lolachi.
young man. Congratulations. So happy for you.
Robin Elaine Long with honors.
So happy for you.
Elizabeth Lopez.
So happy for you. That's right. Raise them up.
Queen Liu with honors. Adrian Loyaho. Maria Patricia McMillan.
Public is so demanding. Congratulations.
Umpo Mafune with honors.
So happy for you. Good job.
Jason Macris.
Yay. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Vesna Maximovich with honors.
Congratulations. Happy for you.
Hashim Malik.
Congratulations.
Mary Maloba.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
Alex George Mancera.
Take your time. Enjoy it.
Martine Marias.
Well done. Congratulations.
Pamela Marquez.
Well done, young man. Happy
Natalia Marrero.
Good job. So happy.
Oneida Patricia Martinez with honors.
Well done. Well done.
Alina A. Massis. Nikki Mason with honors.
Congratulations. So happy for you.
Jenny Reyes Matamoros. Sonia Luz Matos with honors.
Thank you.
Raquel Christine Lopez Maxiano. Sean Adam Mayberry with honors. Kimberly McFarland.
Well done.
Sylvia McLean.
Congratulations. Well done. So
David Medlock.
So happy for you. Congratulations, sweetheart.
Sosena Malesi with honors.
So happy.
Maritza Mena with honors.
Good luck.
Michael Angelo Mendizabal.
Well done. I'm so happy for you.
Manuel Mendoza.
Happy for you.
Vanessa Mikado.
Congratulations. Well done. So happy for you.
Joseph Merchlinsky with honors.
Congratulations. Thank you. All right now, young
Shital
man.
J. Mystery. Shruti Narendra Mystery with honors.
So happy for you. Well done.
Nick Mogadam. Gonzalo M. Molinolo.
Congratulations. Well done, young man.
Sylvia Liliano Monroy.
Ooh, I like that move. Well done.
Angie
Congratulations.
Montesinos.
Well done. I'm so happy.
Morgan Mott.
So happy for you, sweetheart.
Letitia Muadi.
Congratulations, young man. Well done.
Lorena Mucella.
Yay, you did it. Congratulations, sweetheart.
Brogan Murphy with honors.
Congratulations.
Nancy Wasuka Mui.
Congratulations. Well done, sweetheart.
Christian Myrtle with honors.
Congratulations. Well done, sweetheart.
Sairam Nagulapali with honors.
Thank you.
Edna Nandutu with honors. Tawanda Nathan with honors.
Congratulations.
Daniel Need.
Yay, so happy for you. You're good. Yeah, you should be.
Deborah Lee Nelson.
Yay, good job.
Ben Neary. Claude
Give me a smile.
Nwangwo.
Congratulations.
Vincent Nui.
Young man, congratulations.
Willis Nguyen.
That's right. That's right.
Sarah
Take your
A.
time.
Nugayam.
Well done, young man. Very happy.
Lubani Nguera.
Congratulations. Well done.
Ingrid Nicolau.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
Spiridola Valerie Niforos.
Congratulations. Oh, well done.
Gail Enkenwaji with honors.
I like that walk, girl. Congratulations. Well done.
Sandra Nyanchoka. Mary Kay O'Banner.
Congratulations. Oh, I like the accessories. Good job.
Stephanie Oben.
Congratulations. So happy for you. Thank you. All right, young man.
Karen Ogoya. Nicole Erica O'Daniels with honors. Kimani Ogola Hall.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
Natalia Olaya.
Congratulations. Well done, young man.
Soyun Ohm with honors.
Well done. Congratulations.
Alima Onaja.
Happy for you. Good job. With honor.
Jacqueline Oriana with honors.
Tell me what's in it. How do I say you want?
Philip Orozco.
Congratulations.
John A. Ortiz.
Well done. Congratulations, young man.
35 years after finishing his only semester at Montgomery College, graduating today with honors, Kevin Peter Oriazo.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Augusta Paglarini with honors. Christina Denise Sipalis.
Well done. I'm so happy for you.
Vibhav Patel. Danny Paul.
So happy for you.
Taylor Catherine Payne with honors. Ruberman Paz. Jessica Personette with honors.
Well done, young man.
Sheila Kimberly Pierre-Louis. Natalia Ana Torres Pila with honors.
How you doing? So happy for you.
Delmi Estela Pineda. Rosa Pineda with honors.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Abigail M. Pinson with honors.
Congratulations. Well done.
Augusta Pinson with honors.
It's your granddad. It's your granddad.
Lisa Marie Poole with honors.
Congratulations. Well done.
Christopher Oliver Porto.
Oh my God. Congratulations. Well done.
Kevin Putate.
I know. I knew it. Well done. Congratulations.
Gantuya Parefbat. Sovia Ashraf Qureshi with honors.
Well done.
Jessica Jaseni Ramos. Kashyapa Ravipriya.
Congratulations. Yeah. Well done. Happy for you.
William Redner.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
Michael Adam Ream. Ashley Ricketts. Juan Jose Rivas.
Oh, you too, sweetheart. That's what I see you.
Isa Elias Riscala. Kenneth Sanders Robinson Jr.
Well done, young man. Congratulations.
Wendy Rodas.
Congratulations. Well done. So happy.
Candy Rodello Varela.
Well done. You made it, girl. I know. Keep going now. You ain't down yet. You're not
Provas
there yet.
Socrates Rodriguez.
Oh, the same to you.
Juan Pablo Roldan.
You too cool. You too
Vicky
cool.
Rolex Robinson. Carla Romero with honors.
It's your granddad. It's your
Laura
granddad.
Romero.
Congratulations, sweetheart. You're welcome. Congratulations.
Adriana Gabriela Rome.
Happy for you. Congratulations.
Sean Rosa.
Congratulations. Well
David
done.
Louise Rothman.
Well done, young man.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy for you.
Andrew Wesley Ricchini with honors.
Well done.
Cesar Ruiz de Jesus. Priscilla Louise Monteroso.
Congratulations. Well done, young man.
Andrea Maria Ruhlman. Jessica Sabin. Alem Salih.
So happy for you, sweetheart. Congratulations.
Joseph Santos Samarco with honors. Ariana Sarkich with honors. Tatiana Vargas Sarmiento. Erica Satchel II.
Congratulations, my sweet. Well done.
Juana Saucedo.
You ready?
Abigail O. Sawyer.
Well done. Congratulations.
Cameron Schaefer.
I'm so happy for you.
Ryan Hugh Scott.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay.
Richard Segovia with honors.
Well done, young man. I'm so happy.
Asma Seifeladin.
I'm so happy for you. Congratulations.
Johannes Sameh.
So happy for you, sweetheart.
Mustafa Mohammed Shanawaz. Hayam Setayesh with honors. 30 years after starting at Montgomery College, Cheryl Scheimer with honors. Arsh Shingari. Babita Shrestha with honors. Alexandra Silva. Curly Silva. Yelena Simoon with honors. Pauline Sippin with honors. David Michael Skihan. Mariana Lucia Smith. Takina Smith. Daniel Sebastian Sobak. Olga Sokolova with honors. Irina Savova with honors. Shannon Marie Sparks with honors. Dolores Del Carmen Spraggins. Christopher St. Clair. Erin Marie Stamitz. Cynthia Paula Suarez. Guillermo Suarez Daza. Salima Ilhan Soltuna with honors. Misha Del Rey Sidner. Patricia Nicole Tanjuko. Veronica Michelle Taylor.
Thank you so much.
Adrian Thompson with honors. Asia Lynn Thompson. Andrew C. Timmons with honors. Yeselik and Dino Tizzali.
There you go. All right, sir.
Nicholas Anthony Towns. Quinn Tran Not Fong. Cynthia Trejo. Franklin Say.
Thank you.
Winifred Cassandi Turkayiko. Ulysses Vargas. Santos Rivera. Anand Visitakayu. And Keegan Williams. Congratulations, Rockville!
Graduates, In keeping with tradition at commencement, at this time, please move your tassel on your mortarboard from the right side to the left side. Congratulations. Woo-hoo! Y'all gonna change the world, right? That's right. It is now with pleasure that I invite Mr. Donald Kruger, President of the Montgomery College Alumni Association, to induct our 2012 graduates as the newest members of the Montgomery College Alumni Association.
Thank you, Dr. Pollard. Good afternoon. When we started today, it was morning, and now it's afternoon. We need to keep moving here. And for you all, I am the last speaker, okay? So. They're awesome, aren't they? This is an awesome group. We're looking forward to working with you. It's a pleasure to be here. Congratulations to all the graduates, your families, and your friends. On behalf of the Montgomery College Alumni Association, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. We are proud of your accomplishments, and we know that you will continue to succeed and make a difference in our community and for our college. Please turn to the end of your program, where you will find the induction pledge. Would the Montgomery College alumni who are present, that includes the class of 2012, please stand and join me in reading the pledge, all together. I am a graduate of Montgomery College. I have achieved my goal of graduation through my own hard work and dedication, and with the support of my family, friends, and faculty. As a graduate, I am now a member of the Montgomery College Alumni Association. In this capacity, I have earned the privilege of a mutually beneficial and lasting relationship with the college and its community. Today, I move forward to embrace new opportunities and to meet the challenges that lie ahead. But as I do, I also recognize that my Montgomery College experience will remain forever an important part of my life. The opportunity of a Montgomery College education confers me a responsibility to help ensure the continued strength of this great institution. I will not forget this responsibility. I am a graduate of Montgomery College. Class of 2012, it gives me great pride to welcome you to the Alumni Association and confer upon you all the rights and privileges of membership. Congratulations. I wish you the very best in the future, and I encourage you to stop at our tent that we have here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today to celebrate the graduating class of 2012. Please stay and celebrate the success of our graduates at the reception tents to your left as you exit. Please stand and remain in your seat for the academic recessional. Thank you, everyone.